Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Justin from Soccer Shots. He's CEO of Soccer Shots, and we have been working with the team, I can't believe it, I just looked it up, since March 2012. So we've known each other for a very long time. Thank you so much for jumping on with us today. I very much appreciate it.
Michelle, it's my pleasure. Great to help out, and I've loved FBR and the team for all the years that we've been with you. So glad to be here with you.
Yeah, and you guys, I mean, you consistently have great feedback from your franchisees. They very much are satisfied in their business with you and with the team. And I wanted to talk a little bit about last year, 2020. We're now out of 2020, still working through all of the impact of that. But everybody was impacted differently. And what we saw was that some franchisors still took the opportunity to do the formal evaluation and get feedback from their franchisees, and some didn't. And Soccer Shots being the business model runs on working with children, and was not essential business, so had to kind of shut down during that. Why was it something that you decided you still wanted to get feedback from your franchisees during that? And what did you learn from that experience or from that data set from them?
Yeah. Well, Michelle, as you said, we've been with FBR and have offered the survey up to our franchise community since 2012. Felt like it was really important to maintain that continuity. I mean, it's one of the value that we've seen throughout the years is to kind of identify trends, identify like where we've done well in certain areas, where we haven't. And so it's not just, it is a snapshot in a moment of time, but also being able to look back and see, well, how are we doing? How are we trending in a particular area? And while 2020 clearly was just a crazy, atypical year for us and everyone else, we thought it was still important to ask those same consistent questions. I mean, we did do kind of the COVID portion as well, so that we could, just peg, like, how are we doing in the 8 general areas, and then, the specific points among those areas. And it's crazy. I mean, 2019 for us was on the kind of franchise relations portion, a difficult year because we went through a number of changes, tech platform changes. We had an apparel change, some other things. And, there was some tension there between we, the franchisor, and the franchise community. And it was reflected in that 2019 FBR survey. Well, 2020 hit, and everybody knows kind of what hit. And for us, it was really pretty drastic. I mean, from March till June, we had most of our programs closed down. And we really had to rally in providing some alternative programming, et cetera. But to get the FBR survey results from 2020, it really reflected, I think, the appreciation the franchise community showed towards us as being resilient and providing, certain support during this really, difficult time. As well as, feedback around like, hey, here are the things that we should do more of or less of coming out of COVID. And so, we've just used this as a real important KPI for us as a franchisor, and something that we spend quite a bit of time, even as a leadership team, reviewing, analyzing to inform the planning for the coming year.
That's great. So I think that, that's an important thing that we look at is how you're using the data. It's important to get feedback from your franchisees, but to just do it and stick it in a drawer and then do it again in a year, it really needs to be something more that it is a conversation with your executive team. And how can you align everybody on your team with their different initiatives and goals and create those KPIs so that everyone's focused on the same thing. So I think that's a great piece and a takeaway from it. And I'm curious, because now we're going back 8, almost 9 years. Do you remember why you decided to first do the survey with us? I know some brands, and you can be completely honest, do it just to see if they can get that award, and some do it for something else. So just curious if you remember what triggered you to move forward and do it.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of my background. I cut my teeth in franchising with Auntie Anne's, and they had used a satisfaction survey, and so I knew that it was needed when I came to Soccer Shots, that we needed to. I mean, yes, phone calls are important, and everybody maybe has a gut sense, but really needed that data point and surveying all your franchisees to get feedback. And so, we did some research, and I think we identified FBR as the gold standard And there's great value, not only of what I spoke of, like comparing from year to year. So you're comparing yourself to your own performance, but benchmarking. And so, you all do an extensive, I mean, you've got a wide net that you cast to a lot of other franchisors. So, that's important for us to understand where we stand relative to other franchise systems. And then you develop the top 25 and the top 10%, and something that we aspire to be in someday.
Yeah, I love that. That's good. So yeah, so you mentioned you create KPIs from it. Is your team looking at just your overall scores for each section? You mentioned looking at the data year over year. So you're looking at where things are trending up or down for the questions that you ask, and the benchmarking. So what kind of KPIs are you creating out of the data that we collect for you?
Yeah. Well, I think the real goal, actually, I mean, the scores are important. It's a starting point. And it's a way to, I think, peg where you are and putting a quantifiable number. And then there's a means of determining, are the levers you're pulling, or the inputs actually affecting that numerical, quantifiable data point. But I think what we've learned is that it requires, and this is what we did this year, is our leadership team to really pour into kind of the comments, to really understand, okay, what is it that is being said by that number that's being given, and where is it that we find trends in comments? And so each one of our LT members uh, was responsible for their respective kind of vertical within, the survey. And so then what we did is we spent time reviewing our own and then presenting it to the leadership team. And then what we did is we used our franchise advisory council to report back the results. We also did to the community, but then we called a town hall and said, hey, here's our interpretation of what we think we heard you say. Is this really what you said? And we got some good counsel from your team on how to do that. And then we broke up into, using Zoom, we were able to break up into small groups and ask some key questions to get further conversation with those that attended. And then we followed up and made phone calls to each of the individuals brave enough to put their names to the survey, and then, got more input. It was really great, Michelle. I mean, I think what it did is it allowed us to then really zero in on, the few major initiatives that we have the resources to dedicate towards. And while, yes, coming out of COVID, their resources are a little less, everybody's limited. Doesn't matter how big you are, you're limited in resources. And so where are you going to direct your attention? And so I think it did a couple things. I mean, we did more extensive follow-up this year than we ever have. And I think franchisees definitely want to feel heard. I think that's a question on the FBR survey. And we were like, how do we ensure that that's happening? Let's make every effort we can coming off of a survey to demonstrate that they've been heard, let them speak into more. And then let's have a plan that it's obvious that voice was inserted into the plan and so, this year we are focused on doing some research on a new apparel company for us, right? And we've got kind of rocks or KPIs around that. We're exploring a new operation system, something that's a pain point for a franchise system. So we've kind of developed a plan around that. There's also something that came out that's interesting, like I referenced FAC, like communication and input, franchisee input, and still lacking in that in a way that we'd like to improve. And I really have identified that representative group needs higher visibility. The franchise community needs to know that those 5 peer elected individuals are their voice. And so we developed a communication plan around that elevates their visibility, also ensures more standard communication with the community. And that came directly out of the FBR survey this past year. We thought we were doing well, but through the comments, we realized, we were not. We need to improve upon that. Yeah. So those are some of the initiatives that kind of have come from that survey. And I love it.
Yeah. And you touched on something too, in that the trajectory of the franchisee franchisor relationship is not as a straight line. There's always, I mean, your job is you
Machines
are
are hockey
growing,
stick. Yeah.
right? Yeah. So, or even just like a little mountainous to it, because like you said, you have to make changes to your operating systems, to your technology, to your apparel. It's bound to happen.
Yeah.
So I like that. I think some people fear asking those questions when they know that they've dropped the ball or not done the best job that they could. But there's so many learnings on how you can make the next time better, or just where to take your lumps. We hear you. Guess what, guys? We could have done it better, and here's how we're planning to do it better next time. And so that kind of constant conversation and not being afraid to get the feedback that's going to help drive you forward, I think is really important for leaders to hear. Yeah.
Michelle, you hit the nail on the head. I think we as leaders and as a franchisor, you're going to get the critique. So why don't you invite it? Why don't
Yeah.
you give a platform where it could be constructive?
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of us are also conditioning your team to invite it. No, this is good. Like I'd much rather them have critique and explain their position to us openly than to have those conversations independent of us, where it, foments and
Yeah.
causes problems. No, let's be constructive about it.
Yeah,
Let's
that's what I was going to
debate.
say. Constructive feedback versus
Right.
just the complaining or the, yeah.
Yeah.
It's happening, and whether you tune into it or not is your choice.
You got it. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I have
yeah.
friends in the franchise space, suppliers and franchisors, who will tell me, Michelle, I do not like feedback. And I said, there's nothing you can do better for yourself than hear the feedback. Because even if it's not your intention, it's how you're perceived. So you have an opportunity to shift that. And if you don't ask the question, you don't know how you're being read, or you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So that's great. I like it. Okay, so you guys have great data, and of course there's things that you're scoring well in each year. There's opportunities for you to get stronger in different years. How about on the candidate side? Are you sharing, actually, before we go to the candidate side, you mentioned leadership team, you mentioned FAC. Are you sharing your results from the survey each year with your whole community, your franchisee community?
We are. Yeah, we are. I mean, my stance on surveys, if I'm going to survey somebody, I should be able to give the results of that survey. That's kind of how we are with our team, our employees, to our franchise community. It's like, hey, they participated, they have 1 point. It's kind of good for them to see then the results. And so, yeah, we do with the FBR survey results. Compliments once again, tips given from your team, working with Nicole, making sure that those survey results are out as soon as possible. Maybe we haven't digested them all, but I think there's value in some recency, being able to say, hey, we took it, here's the results. We're going to get back to you on our analysis of it. Stay tuned in 2 weeks or whatever. And so that's what we did.
That's
and that
great.
kind of allowed us to not only publish the results, but also then give color commentary and invite conversation in the town halls, the breakouts, the one-to-ones.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you don't have to have all of your ideas and solutions and execution planned out. Just kind of keeping that whole process transparent with them, and putting their feelings in context too, like you're doing with our benchmarking. They can see, am I off the mark in how I'm feeling about the brand compared to the rest of the group? So I think that can help quiet down the naysayers if it's a smaller portion of them. So that's nice. Okay, now candidates. So are you sharing the FBR survey data with people that are interested in becoming a Soccer Shots franchisee?
We are. Yeah, we are. We feel like it augments one-to-one validation very well. And that's typically where we are. I mean, there's on the upfront, there's some information we give, and as it relates to kind of FBR survey results. But when it really, I think when they're interested in talking with people or understanding, well, what is a franchisee's perspective on things, that's when we're able to provide the results of the FBR survey. And if they ask for the full report, we give it to them. There's nothing really for us to hide. Always thought if there's, there should be as few surprises as possible if someone's going to partner with us and we with them. So, do as much dating as necessary. And I feel like the FBR survey is is what a lot of people want to know. It's like, would you do it over again? Where are the strengths? Where are the areas in need of improvement? And it gives then grounds for us to talk about those things, and do what you've said in the past, which said, hey, we think we're pretty good at these things. There's some things we're working on. It's good we're not ignorant to them, and here's our plan for addressing them.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Allows you to frame it before they hear it on a validation call. So I think
That's
that's
right.
smart use of it.
Yep.
So now on the development side, so you are a franchise satisfaction award winner. And I know that you guys are using our lead generation program. And I'm just curious how, are you meeting great candidates through the leads that we're bringing you, or how is it? Do you have a good contact rate with them, or just kind of any feedback you have as far as the people that we're connecting you with that are interested in franchising?
Yeah. What we find is the leads that are coming through the FBR kind of listing, yeah, they're typically people who are interested in buying or at least investigating a franchise. I think they recognize, while they may not be able, if they're cold to it, they may not wrap their head around exactly what the FBR survey is or the meaning of it. But clearly, if you are, among, the winners, or, being recognized in some way, shape, or form, like, it prompts a conversation with a lead has done a little bit of homework and is interested. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, we've seen value in being on that list and having leads kind of course through FBR. Um, but
That's
it's still, these days we still find it a bit of a challenge as we're getting, I think our pipeline certainly is building, because of some of the challenges that we faced in 2020. There's still those that are kind of on the sidelines. They believe in it, but they're not quite ready to make the leap. So in 2019, or excuse me, 2020, we were only able to accomplish half our Fran Dev goal, but we sold 10, and we're looking to increase that by about 30% this year.
Yeah, and I think that you bring up a good point, and that's kind of what we're seeing, is that the interest in franchising hasn't dwindled, but
No,
that people are nervous to
yeah,
take that leap into it. That they're looking for something else that helps them feel like they've done all they can in their due diligence to move forward. So don't give up on those people. That's what
no.
we're hearing from other people, and this data might help them kind of nudge them along without being super salesy. So that's great.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, that's good. I mean, thankfully for us, our model is such that allowed our franchise partners to respond quickly, to, yes, there's kind of weather the storm, but we have the flexibility to come back out. I think, youth sports, youth enrichments, they're not going anywhere. In
Right.
fact, I think a lot of families and parents, having done their fair share of virtual and video, are ready to get outside and get some exercise. So,
Yeah, or anything to get my child off of electronics. Anything,
right, just
Justin,
get
please.
away from the screen. Trust me, I got teenagers and I still have them.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, to get her to go on a walk with me is an all-day effort.
I know, I
Yeah,
know.
I get it. I get it. So how about for just in general, any ideas on where your best leads are coming from outside of, I mean, are you getting a lot of referrals, or just anything that you want to share with other people of what does work for you, as far as finding good candidates?
Well, I mean, listen, for us, our business model is a little unique in that you don't get in a line and see people buying these things and it quickly clicks to, oh, that's a business. So if we have even if you have a young daughter who's in one of our programs, they're with 8 other friends, you see that happen. You might not know that there's dozens of those going around in childcare centers. So our story is a unique one to tell. And of course, word of mouth and, coaches becoming franchisees is a common story. But we, do well with, franchise lists like FBR, Entrepreneur, Forbes,
Yeah, you just need that visibility of the brand.
yeah, Facebook ads are big, but we're not usually, don't do work through brokers, and so a big part of it is through word of mouth, and and social media. I mean, social media is a huge point of emphasis for us.
Good, good. Yeah, that's working for a lot of people in your investment range. And I would say if you don't have your team doing it, taking your data points and creating infographics as kind of your social media thing that drives them to
Mhm.
your report or to talk with you is something that's working well for some of our other clients. So
That's good. It's a good suggestion.
awesome. Well, I do you have any wrap up words of wisdom or tips that you want to share? I don't want to take up too much of your time. I really appreciate
No,
you.
it's been a pleasure. No, I think. Listen, I've talked to a number of business owners and leaders, and you may have said this in the beginning. It's like those that have kind of strong bones, meaning the organizations has like a good cultural foundation, a business model that works. They're weathering this storm, and they're learning how to come back stronger, and that's encouraging. I mean, I think I've seen that. I've seen the resilience in our franchise owners, my own team who has kind of had to hunker down and be resourceful, and relationships have, I think, been strengthened because we're just in this common foxhole of survival. So I'm just excited about where this is going to take us. And it's been, we started the survey has been a great foundation for us for conversations with our franchise partners, an impetus for improving. It's also been something that we've been able to celebrate, to have scores better in 2020 than in 2019 was great encouragement for my team. And it was also kind of an attaboy from the franchise community to us. And so I think coming out of 2020, we're like, yeah, this survey and kind of the use of it, even though at a moment's no time we're like, maybe we should like eliminate to save the cost. I'm so glad we didn't. And it's actually even more important, I think, in 2020 than it had been in the previous years. So
Yeah, that's a
thanks
great
to
piece
you
of
and your
advice.
team for everything you do for us.
Yeah, no, we love working with brands. I mean, I think I remember when we first met and we were watching some franchise executives get on a mechanical bull. Like it's in my head forever.
Oh no, I was
It
supposed to
wasn't
stay
you. You
there.
weren't on the bull.
Oh,
I will.
thank goodness. It's funny. I do recall that.
But
We
yes,
were
we're
innocent bystanders.
yeah, yes.
Well, maybe
Yes,
laughing,
but yes,
snickering.
yes, I'll always remember that. So we love working with brands that care so much about their people. So I appreciate you taking the time to help us convince other people to start asking for feedback. Don't be scared.
Don't be scared. Don't be afraid.
That's right.
Be
Thank
completely
you so much,
transparent.
Justin.
Michelle, thank you
We'll
so
talk to you
much to
soon.
you and the FBR team.
Thank you.